Hey pilots, thank you for joining me for another review of a Gundam kit. And in this review, we are going to be reviewing the early grade Strike Gundam. This is the second early grade, I believe, to be produced. Or no, third technically, because that one's technically the second, if I recall. But the first one being, of course, the Granddaddy Gundam, being the early grade kit. The second being the USA, which is literally the same runners, just a recolor. And then I believe this one is the third. This is the newest early grade of 22 line. Yeah, it was made in 2022. It's a pretty cool kit. I have to say the ease of cleanup and the assembly went like pretty easily. The worst part the worst time that I had with the cleanup is seam lines. But of course this is like a $10 kit and it is an early grade. I believe at this point it is to be expected. The hardest seam line to do, or like the hardest seam line I think to actually take care of, is the seam line here on the leg. The front part itself has an actual seam line going down the middle here, like this entire thing. And you gotta be careful not to oversand it. So I'd recommend like actually starting with a 600 or yeah, I would say 600 grit to actually get the seam line down. If you're using a sanding sponge, you're gonna have to fold it, or you're gonna have to you're definitely gonna have to shape it to the curves as to not completely sand down the like platform that's elevated on, because I almost did that with one of the sides, and luckily I caught it in time and I was pretty much already good to go, so I wasn't too worried about it. But it's pretty sweet for an early grade. I'm very happy with it. I've heard that it's better than a high grade Strike Gundam, and I can kind of see why. The only real issues that I'm seeing is that I believe with the feet articulation, I would imagine the high grade would be slightly better, but probably not too much better. Going into the assembly, everything went together really easily. Just make sure that you trim those pegs if you're going to customize this. I know a lot of people customize early grades because they're cheap and they're easy to test out on. Make sure you trim those pegs. Make sure that you take care, in particular, of the area back here on the legs that kind of clip everything together. And same thing, I believe, on the arms, like right here, is what you're going to want to take the most care to. I'd recommend either having a guitar pick or something like, I know this is kind of weird, or it's like a not typical, oh, here it is. A not typical thing that you're going to have in your arsenal. I have a toothpick with foam wrapped around it. It's like a lab type piece of equipment. I'm sure if you looked up like a toothpick foam or something along those lines on Amazon, you could find something. Same thing if you looked up, I have these plastic toothpick type things that have foam. They're not quite actual toothpicks, but they're as thin as a toothpick and they have like a foam tip. And I know you can find those on Amazon because I found them. I do not know. I don't remember what I searched. I would literally say plastic toothpick with foam. You'll probably get some type of result. You'll see what I mean. To kind of just lodge it out without damaging the plastic, because you're going to have to actually get in there and wedge things out. And what you're going to want to do is actually take apart the leg like almost in its entirety, to the point of where you just have the part that clips, that these clip into here, and then this leg piece here that clips into it. So that way you can actually move it, get in there, pop it off, and then take the whole assembly apart. It's kind of a pain in the butt if you don't know what you're doing, or if you didn't trim down the piece well enough that actually slaps on to that joint area. You'll kind of see what I mean. You're going to see a bunch of little slots in that particular piece. You're going to want to carefully trim them with either a hobby knife or a nipper, so that way you can easily take it off and it's not that much of a hassle. Otherwise, you're not really going to be able to get it off without doing damage to it. And I almost did that, so please be careful. Those are the only issues I really had with assembly, and I'm going to say disassembly, because I always test that before putting the entire kit together. So just make sure you keep that in mind if that's what you want to do. If you're just snap building it, don't care about it. Like, it doesn't matter. You'll be fine. Let me swap to the kit cam and I can show you guys the color separation of the kit as well as the articulation of the kit. And that's pretty much it. So I'll be right back. Looking at the kit, the color separation is very, very good for almost like anime faithful, which I kind of like. And I think they kind of executed it very well, where it still has a lot of like detail and a lot of different color separation. Of course, there's a few other color separation things because there's no color correction sticker. So what you're really going to have to look for here is the thrusters here. So these would normally have like a gray inlet and then like a little red outline on the inside, just to kind of differentiate what the actual thruster part is. But regardless, there's a couple other parts here that you could probably kind of thruster out or color in with some of the Tamiya panel liner, but it's pretty much fine as is. I would say in terms of color separation, pretty happy with it. For articulation, you're gonna get pretty good arm movement. Nothing too crazy. The arm itself can go up to this height without really messing with anything. Unfortunately, it is not double jointed. This actually is a system that goes into the arm peg here. This part just slips over it and then it goes right into the peg. So there's no actual articulation point in here. But again, it's an early grade, nothing too crazy. For the actual arm movement, you get your typical arm movement here. It is on a ball joint, so you get some good movement like that way. And then on the torso, you get some articulation that way on the shoulder joint. It does raise and lower without having to move the actual shoulder pauldron. That pretty much stays in place. You have next to no problems with it, which is very nice. This part just slips on over it, so you can still angle this separately as well. Which again is very nice if that's what you're going for, if you have to make slight adjustments. I'm not going to mess with it too much because I have it arranged a certain way. And the hands are on a normal ball joint, all that kind of stuff. That's pretty typical. Head is also pretty typical, but it has that nice, not polycap head mount. It's a nice plastic piece. It kind of has that. See, I almost want to get early grades just for that piece, just so it's not a polycap in there. So you can kind of see it in there, right? That's so nice, and you get so much range of motion. It elevates the actual head to where you can really pose the hell out of it, and it really makes me think that, man, if these were just slightly cheaper, I would buy it just for that and for some very low tier customized parts. I did separate the waist part, so that way you can kind of raise one skirt over the other. Side skirts have some articulation, but not too much because they're on a ball joint. Rear skirt has none, unfortunately. The torso has pretty good range of motion. So you have that kind of range of motion if you kind of back out the ball joint a little bit. You have really good torso rotation. Then you get a really nice back and forth motion. So you can get that really nice S shape if you're posing your Gundam. The only thing I did have to do is use some cement on the actual ball joint that connects to the waist to get some to get just a little bit more toughness out of it, so it didn't like just sink or didn't like wobble with any type of slight vibration. But that took like only 2 layers of the extra thin cement that I have over here, so that was pretty easy. The legs are double jointed, but they don't really articulate as much as you'd think. You get the standard leg movement here. I believe most high grades are like this, so it's not something crazy that doesn't have on the strike. I don't know what the high grade strike's articulation is like, so I can't really compare it. What the nice part is that you can actually angle it forward as well, so you actually kind of get some nice, you know, I just blew out my knee joint type articulation out of it if you're doing some type of kick. The foot does move back and forth about like a C to bar joint, and then this is on the foot itself is on a ball joint, and it does rotate. does kind of kick back and forth, but you can't really angle the ankle joint, so you just gotta be careful. The like foot covers, I don't know what to call it, it's like the ankle armor, um, is on a ball joint and peg. I did reverse it based on the instructions. I actually have the peg itself on the inside. You're supposed to have it on the outside, but I did that on purpose because I had a bit of a like a blemish on one of the ankle armors, and it doesn't really affect articulation any. My biggest issue with like articulation is this shield. One, because it doesn't really go on this ball joint all that well. I like thickened this up like 3 times already, and it doesn't really go on all that well. It has a tendency to fall off. And also, like, even the inside isn't even shaped for a ball joint, really. So it's kind of a hassle. If you're planning on keeping it, I definitely would layer up the cement on the ball joint to the point where it's definitely thick enough to retain it. I don't know if that's like a persistent issue that you might find on your kit that was on mine. I don't really know. But other than that, that's pretty much the articulation of the kit itself. Unfortunately, there's not really any gimmicks. The only real gimmick that I know of for this kit is the fact that you can put some of the high grade striker packs or some other packs or whatever you want to do for custom work into this peg back here to kind of make either your own striker pack or adapt it to a high grade one. Okay, pilots, so here's why I can't actually tell you for once what my customization plans are for this kit. I am currently in the middle of a contest with the other sponsors of GSN in order to actually do a custom build for the early grade strike. I want to kind of hype that up a bit. Obviously, you guys have probably seen my ads by now for GSN, and they're a really good site. We're doing a competition where we're going to customize our early grade strikes. I can't tell you what I'm doing with it because it's going to be an anonymous voting system. What's going to happen is that the sponsors will take pictures of their kits, and we're sending them in to Charles or Shars, however you know him, who is the owner of GSN, and then he's going to post them on Instagram at Gundam Shoppers Network on Instagram. Once he posts those, people are going to get the vote on what their favorite custom build is. And it's anonymous, so that way there's no bias, which is great. I'm like specifically going to try and take pictures of this so people don't know like who it is or who it's from, because I want to keep as much competitive integrity as possible. I'm really excited, but I can't tell you what I want to do with it, and I kind of know what I want to do with it. But yeah, so please stay tuned, and after this competition is over, I'm going to release everything. Like I have to figure out how, but I'm going to take videos of my customization process, some things I'm doing. I might even make tips and tricks videos along the way, because I'm doing a lot of stuff for this that I haven't done yet on another kit, but I'm going to at least try to do some detailing. And I'm going to do painting and some other stuff, but that's it. I can't get into any more details, and I'm sorry about that. Please stay tuned. Appreciate you guys coming by. If you guys want early grade strike, I of course recommend GSN in the corner there. So if you guys need any type of Gundam kit, make sure you check them out. And without further ado, make sure you guys grab your hobby gear and sortie out and hobby on.